So you were you gigging around town in those days?
No, I wasn't gigging around town at all. I was just some kid trying to figure things out off of records. That's
Right.
all. And I know I was playing baseball was the main thing, you know. So I ended up getting a scholarship to University of Arkansas at Little Rock, and I played there for a season and a half before I injured myself and couldn't play ball anymore.
Oh,
So then I became a cook. Still stayed in Little Rock. I didn't move back to Florida because there was just no future there for me at all
right.
to do anything. And when I was about 24, I picked up a guitar again. I hadn't played guitar since I was like 18, 19 years old and stuff,
Yeah.
20 maybe. And so I picked it up again at 24 and broke up with a girlfriend, and as she broke up with me, actually, and threw a guitar at my back saying, "Here, see if you can make something of yourself." You know? Huh? Okay. And I kind of had a knack for it. Anyway, before too long, after going through playing in a band that recorded some demos for RCA, whole album's worth of original material, was the first band I was in Little Rock, a band called Coon Dog. Then played in a couple more little groups around Little Rock, and Little Rock always had the potential to have an explosive music scene. But just as soon as it threatened to break out, the establishment would always shut it down and shut down the bars.
Right.
So Little Rock was nowhere for me, anyway. And so I'd made friends with these people at this independent record store in Little Rock, Discount Records. And one of my friends there was this guy named Carol D. Bland, who was a harmonica player. And Carol D., when he was growing up in North Little Rock, as a child, he lived down the street from a blues club that would have people like T-Bone Walker, Jimmy Reed,
Wow.
Little Walter,
Yeah.
whoever was working the Chitlin circuit at the time, he
Sure.
could go see. And he'd sneak around the back and stand on some old beer crates and stuff and listen through the window. So he was hip to the blues scene and stuff. And he turned me on to Muddy Waters and Lightning Hopkins and people like that just really
Right.
I'd never even heard of,
Sure.
you know. And so we were an interesting band. We used to play original. It wasn't country, but it wasn't quite country rock either. But we played, I guess now they'd call it Americana. We played those kind of tunes, Americana, and we'd mix our songs up in our set list. Like we'd do a couple of Don's original tunes. Don Klaus was the leader of the band. He was Coon Dog. He was a Vietnam vet, and a lot of his songs had to do with his time in Vietnam, and of course with lost loves of Arkansas mountain girls. And so we'd do a couple of his tunes, then we'd follow it up with something by Lightning Hopkins or Jimmy Reed or Muddy Waters. So people really didn't know what to make of us. They'd just never heard of such a thing. And in that particular time, in that particular location. But anyway, eventually that band broke up, and Carol D. was responsible for. He introduced me to Larry Davis. Larry needed a guitar player for a couple of gigs for a weekend. So Carol D. put me in touch with Larry, Carol D. had taken me to see play a couple times. when Albert King came to town and stuff, because Albert and Larry were old childhood buddies. But I digress. And I went over to Larry's house. It was an old shotgun style house. And him and his mother lived there. And she was sick with diabetes, really bad. There's some really bad stages of that disease. So I saw that, and when I was waiting for Larry to come out and I was sitting on the couch, I saw a little mouse running around underneath a bed in the bedroom right off the main thing. And I was just going, well, that's cool, okay. And then Larry came out with his guitar and sat down and showed me a chord and said, "Can you make this chord?" And I said, "Sure." And we talked a little bit. And he said, "Play this rhythm." So I played this rhythm. He goes, "Okay, can you do this chord?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do that chord." He goes, "Play this rhythm." I played that rhythm. He says, "Okay, you'll do. What's your address?" Gave him my address. He says, "Someone will be by to pick you up at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning." That was a Friday, and Saturday was when somebody came by, picked me up in a Bronco, the full-size Bronco, not the little ones they have. And Coot was the bass player, keyboard player. Or was he the bass player? No, Coot was the bass player. It was his truck, and he picked me up. And then we went and picked up the rest of the band, and then we drove on to Memphis. So here I am, in my 20s, the only Ofe in the vehicle. Didn't know any of these guys. They were all in their 40s and 50s. They were all a lot older than me. We're on the road to Memphis. I have no idea where we're going, what we're doing. And they start passing around the whiskey flask. And they get it to me, and they go, "You want something?" "Yeah, sure." And they pass around the joint. "You want something?" "Yeah, sure, why not?" You know? And so we're having a grand old time. We get to Memphis, and Coot pulls his Bronco into this alleyway. It's just pretty narrow. And we go down it, and at the end of the alley is Larry sitting on the trunk of his Cadillac talking to some girls. And we get out, unload all the equipment, and take it through a narrower walkway to a backstage area. And we set up our stuff on this stage. And then I have time to walk around a little bit. Well, on the stage next to us is John Lee Hooker and Charlie Musselwhite playing. The next stage, or maybe after those guys, Memphis Slim is playing.
Wow.
So it turns out to be this big festival in a park right off of Bill Street somewhere. I mean, I don't know. To this day, I still don't have any idea where this festival was or anything. But we played between John Lee Hooker and Charlie Musselwhite and Memphis Slim, I believe. And we did 45, 60-minute set, something like that. And Larry introduced everybody in the band and said, "And this young feller here on guitar, I don't know his name yet. I just met him yesterday, but ladies, he is a ladies' man. So you want to talk to this guy?" But, you know, I turned just as red as I could be. And so anyway, after our show's over, all of a sudden I got all these girls talking to me. And they're all sweet and big smiles, and they're nice. This, you know, red-headed kid. And I'm just going, cool. And Larry goes, "Man, we ain't got time for that. We got to head back to Little Rock. We got a show there tonight." I said, "What?" "Yeah, we got to go." And waved goodbye to the girls and got back in the truck and drove back to Little Rock and played a show for 4 hours to 15 people. 6 of them were in the band, and 6 of them were working there. At the end of the night, I looked at Larry and said, "So this is the blues?" He goes, "Yep, this is what it is." Because the first gig we got paid $75 a piece. The second gig we got paid $20 a piece. And he goes, "Do you think you can hang?" I was hooked. I was hooked. Hook, line, and sinker, man. That was, oh hell yeah, I can hang. I called up my job the next morning to quit, and 2 months later I was homeless, off and on for 2 years. I had a blast.